Okay. Look at the house online. You need to hold it, right? That hurts my letter. Yeah. Such a good.
Oh, wasn't it? I felt for him because I did that. I ruptured mine like that.
Just trying to take.
Oh,
Take a cut and.
I was taking a quick step when my son was 10. He's 27 now, so 17 years ago. I took a step and it ruptured.
Oh my God.
I thought I got shot in the back of the foot. I had no idea what happened. I went into shock. I was sweating from head to toe. It was awful. Awful. It's a long recovery too.
Yeah. Yeah, they said you don't know what was next year.
Yeah, I was 11 months before I started feeling like I could go up on my toes.
I bet. See. For the young guys.
Yeah, because they had that right there. Are you a basketball fan?
Yeah.
So I'm reading this book called Loose Balls right now. It's about the ABA days, and it talks about all the stuff that happened in the ABA, money, and
Really?
it's really interesting. Yeah. Some guy was
Loose balls.
Loose balls, bitten something like something Pluto. It's like 20 hours of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty.
I put it in my car on Audible when I'm going between appointments. I listen to it. Yeah. Might have some connection problems. I lost the internet for a day. That's about a week ago.
Back from.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had ours out for. What was that? I was out.
Almost all
My wife
day.
was home. That was maybe Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where it was gonna be back by 9 and then back by 11,
Yeah.
back by 4, and it was like, okay, when?
Oh, I felt terrible. I was out at a lake house at a friend's and my wife was home alone and she's like,
No.
we got no internet. We got a 2-year-old daughter at home. She's like, what am I supposed to do? It's 90, it's 90.
It becomes real.
It's 92 degrees outside. So we're like, we're not going out the road.
Yeah, that was the other.
No, she was like, I can't take her. I can't go outside. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, perfect.
All right, everybody. We will call the June meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the town of Fortville to order at 6:35. Thank you for showing up this evening. Welcome and appreciate your attendance. Moving on to the first order of business tonight. Adam, if you would please take us through the roll call.
Sure. Mr. Simmons? Here. Mr. Bolander? Mr. Sturdivant?
Here.
Mr. Jacobs?
Here.
And Mr. Murphy?
Here. All right, thank you very much. Now, if everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, thank you. Moving right along. Next item on our agenda this evening is to approve the meeting agenda. Before we do that, Adam, are there any changes, revisions, anything that we need to modify before considering a motion?
Sir.
All right, thank you very much. I would look for a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
Make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Denied? All right. Meeting agenda approved. Next, we've got consideration for approving the minutes from the February 27th, 2025 BZA meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review? Any changes, modifications noted or needed at this time? If not, I would look for,
Hold on just a second.
Oh.
What was it? So is this what we got right here?
this should be,
What was
yes.
the date of it?
Oh, it is it 227 or 228? That's a good call. The meeting minutes themselves say 228, but on the agenda it does say 227.
Let's see. All got these magic ones or not. Good. That would have been the 27th.
27th, okay.
Yeah.
So I can make a motion as the meeting minutes, if they're corrected to 227, I would approve the minutes.
All right, got a motion with the condition. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, approved with condition. I'll make a note here on the agenda meeting minutes and then will we sign at a later date then, Adam?
If you want to just cross it out and put 27.
Okay. And go ahead
We'll make
and-
sure when it goes on the web that it was February 27th, 2025.
Right. Moving on to new business for the evening. We've got one public hearing, case number variance 03/2025 at 1200 East Broadway Street, Earthworks / Property Pros. The BZA to consider a request by Joshua Springer of Property Pros to allow use variance for a contractor's warehouse use within a proposed metal building for equipment storage for Earthworks outdoor tree service east of Property Pros near 1200 East Broadway Street. So with that, moving into the case, Adam, will you give us the presentation, please?
Sure, thank you. For the record, I'm Adam Zaklikowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. So this is a request by Joshua Springer of Property Pros, and he's seeking approval of variances to allow 1 to 2 new metal buildings for a contractor's warehouse use east of his property at 1200 East Broadway. And the property is zoned residential 3.5. The property would be owned and operated by Earthworks Outdoor Inc., currently based in Fishers. They would like the metal buildings to store equipment for their tree maintenance business, and no outdoor storage is proposed. Also, I should mention, to be clear, Property Pros would remain in business. This would be on the empty field to the east. 7 buildings are shown on the plan in addition to the 2 that's proposed, and those might be built in a later phase. So the total area containing the 9 buildings is about 14 acres in total. So as we take a look here, you can see the aerial and the parcel map, the area in question. Over to the north is town of Ingalls in Madison County. There's a self-storage grouping of buildings that's kind of northwest. There's a pond, and then there's a residential neighborhood to the northeast in Ingalls. And then, of course, over to the west is the Winstone neighborhood here in Fortville. To the south, there is a rural residential type property along 1050 north. And then to the east, there's an agricultural field in unincorporated Hancock County. If we take a look at the oblique aerial, you can see the Property Pros business and operation. You can see the self-storage over on the left side here. And again, the farmland is where they would be looking to build these new facilities. If we take a look at the zoning, the zoning on the property is residential 3.5. Over to the west is planned unit development as part of Winstone, and then to the south is agricultural zoning here in Fortville. And I'll explain in a moment how that came to be in terms of the residential zoning on this property. So if we take a look at the metal building that Property Pros has right now, the vision for the property is to have basically similar buildings that would be on that farmland. So the history on this entire property is that in 2017, Property Pros signed a memorandum of understanding with the town in order to gain the town's support or endorsement for their initial development, which required a special exception from Hancock County BZA at the time for a contractor's storage yard. And in that document, Property Pros agreed to annex into town limits, which they did. They agreed to provide some buffer yards, which they did. And they agreed to rezone the property to residential, and the storage yard would be considered a legal non-conforming use. So that has been done as well. So this proposal would more or less be an expansion of a similar use on the property, although it would be a contractor's warehouse. It would be by a different owner and would have no outdoor storage. So if we take a look at the concept plan, just so you get an understanding as to what the vision would be, you can see the Property Pros operation right here. And then you could see the first two buildings that they'd like to put in would be in this area. And then potentially 7 additional buildings in the future. Obviously, they'd have to put in a detention pond as needed for the development. And you're not being asked to approve the concept site plan today, but rather just get an understanding of what the vision is for the property. So the decision criteria from Indiana code to allow a use variance for a contractor's warehouse use within residential zoning are the following items, and then with my staff analysis below. So the first one is the general welfare test, that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. And I'd say that there's no evidence to support that any of these items would be impacted. Second one is adjacent property, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. I'd say that there's no evidence to support that any of these items would be impacted. To the north, there are self-storage units, as I mentioned. There's a pond and there's a tree line. To the south, there's a tree line as well, and additional trees along the west property line are recommended via a condition, which I'll mention here in a bit. Third item is need. The law says that the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. And I'd say this area is peculiar in that it does not front any roadways and is secluded. The original project was established via special exception through a BZA, so expansion via a use variance is logical. Fourth item is hardship. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. I'd say that strict application of the zoning ordinance would not allow a contractor's warehouse at all on this land, despite there being a contractor's storage yard already on the property. And then lastly, for the use variance, comprehensive plan. The approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan adopted. I would say that the 10-year comprehensive plan, which looks out to 2034, shows this area of land as residential suburban and it was based on that MOU that was signed in 2017. There is a possibility that the entire 9-building project does not happen, and the eastern portion of the project could be part of a suburban subdivision as part of a larger possible neighborhood to the east. All right, so now moving on to the decision criteria from Indiana code to allow a development standards variance for a metal building within residential zoning. First one is that same general welfare test. Approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. Again, there's no evidence to support that any of those items would be impacted in this circumstance. The second one is adjacent property. Again, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Really the same justification as I already mentioned. And I would go on to say that Property Pros has an existing metal building on their property right now. And just bear with me, I need to do one IT item here. Okay. And then lastly, practical difficulty. The strict application of the terms of this chapter of the zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property. My professional opinion would be that strict application of the zoning ordinance would not allow a metal building, which is a frequently used material for a contractor's warehouse use. All of the public hearing notification requirements have been completed. That included the mandatory newspaper ad, a public hearing sign, a mailing. That's all been completed. There was one letter of remonstrance from Mr. Chris Fisher of 705 North Crystal Drive in Whinstone. And he'd basically like to see more screening on the existing property, landscaping and or a berm. And I want to just read this into the record because of, we received a letter the other day, and as you know, within that 3-day lead up period to the meeting, I'm precluded from providing you with any evidence pro or con in making your quasi judicial opinion. So I'll just read this here. So it says, Dear Fortville Board of Zoning Appeals members, thank you for taking my comment in reference to the zoning change proposed by Property Pros. I do not know if I will be able to attend the meeting, so I wanted to reach out before the meeting on Thursday, June 26th. I'm a resident of Whinstone, and my backyard looks directly into the Property Pros land, so any developments there have a direct impact on our property as well. Before I start, I would like to mention that I also emailed the owner of the property and offered my suggestions as well. I'm supportive of the property owner improving his land. However, my concern, and I think the concern of my fellow neighbors, is that any development should not have a negative impact on our properties. When we first moved in, all that was on the land was the Property Pros main building. And since then, we have seen more and more brush, mulch, and equipment piled up on the property. My ask would be that if the zoning change is allowed, that Property Pros add more trees than are indicated on the drawings in order to screen the view as much as possible. I would ask if those trees are as mature as possible when planted. They shouldn't be seedlings, in order to quickly screen the properties of Whinstone from the developed industrial area. Another possible suggestion would be to build a larger grassy berm with trees on top. I believe this is something the pool company did on the south side of the neighborhood when they expanded. We also ask that the property avoid light pollution as much as possible in any future development. I also believe that Whinstone was designed to eventually join into a housing development on its east side, south side of the Property Pros land, based on the dead-end streets that in the neighborhood on that side leading into the farmland. The committee should understand that their decision could impact town growth in that area as well in the future. Thank you, Chris Fisher, 705 North Crystal Drive. So then lastly, my recommendation would be that both the use variance, development standards variance, it meets all the decision criteria, but to address concerns from the neighbor and staff, attach the following conditions. Number one, the approval shall be for a maximum of 2 buildings. Additional structures will require additional BZA approval. Number 2, the project shall follow all development standards required in the industrial light zoning district. Number 3, along the west property line of Property Pros to the southern property line of the subject property, the petitioner shall follow the buffer yard type 3 planting standards from the zoning ordinance. And I've created an exhibit here. So you can see in green, based on the neighbor's concern, this would be the area for enhanced landscaping, and the zoning ordinance for a type 3 buffer yard says, and I quote, 2 broadleaf deciduous canopy trees and 2 evergreen trees shall be planted parallel to the property line for every 50 feet of boundary between the properties. Shrubs shall be planted along 50% of the length of the yard. All required shrubs shall be a minimum 24 inches tall as measured from grade at time of planting. And the minimum height of the buffer shall be no less than 8 feet in height at any point. So presumably in this case, 8-foot tall trees. So with that, if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to address those. One last thing I wanted to mention too is in the zoning ordinance, there are 3 different types of buffer yards that are contemplated based on the adjacent uses. And type 3 is the most restrictive. So it follows the planting schedule from that. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adam. Really appreciate the context on this case. Does anybody have questions for Adam at this time? There will be time in the agenda for you to be able to ask questions. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I just have one quick question. Did the mailing does that go across county line?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Yeah, it goes to a depth of 2 properties deep, or I can't remember if it's 300 or 600 feet from 600 is I think what we had on the notice that's required. Whichever is less, 600 feet or 2 property ownerships deep.
So you noted quickly that this is not concept plans. Will that have to come before the plan commission for review?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's a commercial
Okay.
development.
Just noted the amount of parking and want to make sure that we appropriately plan for
Stormwater.
Yeah. everything, traffic, stormwater, full development, make sure it's done right. Okay. Want to make sure that we're not blanket approving moving forward. Any other questions for Adam at this point? Okay, we have time in our agenda for those who would like to speak on behalf of the case. If anybody is here that would like to speak on behalf of the petitioner, please come up to the microphone, say and spell your name and how you represent the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
If you want to just enter your name at the record, because there'll probably be some questions and then we'll have some back and forth. We'll have time to answer questions and.
My name is Eric Rector, the owner and president of Earthworks Outdoor. I'm, proposing to do this project.
Last name, please.
RECTOR. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we really like the Fortville area for our business. It's a good central location. We service Madison County, Hancock, all the way Marion, Hamilton. So we service the whole area, and it's a good central location. We bring jobs to the area, potential, employees moving nearby to get close to work. Also we want the nice warehouse. I want things that look nice. I have good equipment that we want to keep inside to stay out of the weather. It's not cheap. The sun's hard on stuff. Our goal is to better the area in any way that we can and ourselves, to bring a positive effect on the community.
Okay.
So, we're hopeful to do anything we can to do that.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions for Eric at this time?
How many people do you intend to employ there, and how many people will be coming on and off site
Yeah.
daily on average?
Sure. So currently, I have 7 employees. Myself would be number 8. my goal is to have a total of 3 crews. We run 2 right now, you know, so I don't see us being much past probably 15. I mean, I don't wanna, you know, rabbit hole myself into that number, but I'm not looking to have 200 employees
Right.
pull into this place. So really, you know, as a service industry, and that's really what these are geared toward, housing, it's very difficult space. You just can't find this space to, even if you wanted to go rent something, you can't go find space with buildings like this to house the equipment. And we don't typically have a ton of employee or people coming to the shop. Like, it's just our employees. It's not a retail space, you know, we're not looking at a lot of foot traffic, we're not looking at a lot of automobile traffic other than our equipment and employees coming in and out. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
At what point would you know when it's 1 or 2 buildings?
It would be rather quickly. Yeah, so once we get this piece figured out, then I'll be able to go back and just pencil out the numbers and make sure, you know, do we start with 1? Do we start with 2? I mean, ultimately, we would like to, but we may start with 1 and expand to that.
You will be able to have time. Yep, just 1 second.
For the, like the parking you have back here next to the newer buildings, the proposed buildings, is this gonna be asphalt, gravel?
Um,
Yeah, you can come up and speak on behalf of the petitioner. Yeah, absolutely.
Springer, Joshua Springer, SPRINGER, I'm owner of Property Pros Land Management and Springer Estates, which is the holding company for the land. This is a concept design, and obviously we still would need to come through with, you know, our plans on where the buildings are gonna be exactly, from a drainage, from a parking, from lighting, all those different things. We just want to be able to show the bank, and the banks are requiring that, you know, we get approval to do something outside of this, outside before they'll even consider talking to us about the project and financing it. They want to make sure that, you know, it's a possibility and they're not wasting their time and their resources. And just so that the board is aware, at my peak in 2022, I had 88 employees full-time coming out of my shop. Currently I'm at 36. So there's been about a 50 employee reduction in vehicles already right there. So again, not looking to add tons of traffic. I'm actually being more selective and targeting my contracts, and I don't desire to have 200 employees. 88 was a lot.
Well, the reason I was asking was because if it's gonna be asphalt that has, especially something like that, it's gonna have a lot of runoff on the water. I was kind of concerned about the properties maybe to the south. And then if we do have them put up a berm like that, I don't know how that's gonna affect the drainage for them as well. If that's gonna make their lot flood
well,
or,
I think conditionally to this, that all has to be approved later. Also, I believe from the property line, it drains toward 36
okay,
naturally. And
Yeah,
then
from the
obviously there
topography.
would be, you know, you guys would, or whoever recommends, you know, whatever retention ponds are necessary, detention ponds, stormwater drainage, but the natural drain of it is actually the other way, I believe.
okay.
And Adam actually has, on that overhead, you can see, as soon as you come in on the other side of the buffer, and actually, excuse me, directly to the south of the building where you see all those vehicles lined up before the evergreens, to the left of the cluster of trees, there's actually a lot of overkill as far as drainage and sub drainage there, and along the back of the storage of the bulk material. So there was a drainage plan considered for expansion in the first installment.
And Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but any improvements Hancock County Drainage will, the Drainage Board will be responsible for oversight on that, correct?
Yes. What I would add in clarification is, at least as part of my proposed condition, I'm not recommending a berm for those reasons that it can cause adverse situations. But I do believe that having a dense amount of plantings is warranted in this situation, given the proximity to the neighborhood. So no berm, but provide plant.
We did actually berm. This picture's a little older. We actually did berm that side and invested about 5,000 in screening evergreens along that side, because we know the neighborhood wants to see cornfields, but we can't be a mirage.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay. You guys hang around. We'll probably have some questions as we entertain public comment. Appreciate it. All right, now we have time on our agenda for public comment for or against the project. Anybody who would like to speak on behalf of the project, please come up to the microphone, say and spell your name and your address, please.
My name is Jennifer Westfall, last name spelled Westfall, and I live at 651 North Crystal Drive. If you could pull up the large aerial picture of the area. Yes, please. Okay, so I live about right here. Right here. And it doesn't seem like it via this, but you can see directly onto the property. My home sits up pretty high. But we're pretty elevated because the whole entire section right here is a dip. So our homes are raised up in case this river overflow. Their sewers right here. Okay, so we sit pretty high, we can see all the property, especially if you go upstairs. So my question would be, just protecting my property on the long run, not so what we see as an everyday living, living there. We already do hear a lot of noise, see a lot of light. It can be distracting when you're trying to enjoy your backyard.
Did you want to, or maybe take the microphone with you, or?
Oh, yeah, for anyone who's online, yeah.
Recorded.
A couple questions about where things are going to be. So first of all, I was wondering, do you currently own this piece of land already? I can't remember per our discussion once before. Okay, but you do not own this or this, correct? Okay, so the land of the south he doesn't own, but just the land to the east. And then you own this, you do own this portion right here? Yes, so this, the 25-foot variance, I believe it runs across the back side of parcel. Yeah, it goes all the way down to the very end, if I remember correctly. So in that section, you'd like to build this road right here. So my concern would be what types of equipment and how loud those would be. And is that too tight of a turn? Would they get stuck there trying to pull a really large crane and then, backing up, trying to get it in and out, in and out? Is that what we're going to be hearing? That would be one of my concerns, is the way this road is designed. Not only are these people going to have to look at these big, large tractors and things coming, going, but they may have to hear them. And is there a possibility of them getting stuck on this corner round? Would there be a better place to put the road, access either there or even at the top somehow? That was one of my questions. Currently, we don't hear too much. It's gotten better, I think, probably because you have less employees. But those are big trucks that are going to be pulling that equipment. So I'm just curious how much, leaving early in the morning, coming back late at night, how much of the are we going to be hearing?
So, I guess I could say to that corner, my equipment. It cost about $5,000 to have a crane come pull my trucks out on the road that I can't turn on.
Okay.
So, yeah, getting stuck in the corner.
So it might be a direct, 90-degree angle, maybe a little bit of a rounded angle to help get out there.
Equipment also would have to be in a fire truck, ambulance,
larger meetings, about two access to the property.
Quick note. So if we can note the questions and then if you could come back up and answer, just so for the recording and for anybody who's online, I want to make sure they can hear us. So, no, I get it. We're all here. It feels like we should just be able to have a conversation, but
And
the
then I have a
virtual
question
aspect,
about
no.
what space 1 and 2 on the other south side section? I don't understand what that is. If you could leave that post picture back up.
Could you repeat that question, please?
There is a phase 1 and phase 2, what looks like a building on this south parcel of land right here. What is this right here indicating?
My guess is we'll let you come up and answer that.
Yeah.
So we'll have them answer that. I'm guessing that's a legend.
Yeah, that's just a legend showing
Yeah.
what phase 1 is, so it's like a key.
Oh.
So it's just representing what.
The gray and then the orange key. It's okay. So it's not an actual building. It's just a key. Okay. Anything? Okay. And then what about lights? What is the plan for lights? Because we did get a lot of light pollution just from your building alone. And I was wondering, is it possible to just do like a motion detector lights so that you still have some sort of security? Are you going to put a fence around it for security in addition to the lighting?
We'll have you.
From a lighting standpoint, I don't want to have light pollution. I know that happens with the storage units. And I've actually been approached by a couple of residents that want strategic trees planted when we do this to block out the storage unit. So same concept that I said with you. If you have an angle or view that, we can block because, really it's these 10 houses that are affected. I mean, we'll take all that into serious consideration with the development. I don't see, do you need 24-hour lights on all the time? I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as lighting, my understanding is that's gonna be subject to, building approval
Yeah.
after this meeting. I don't need big spotlights. Security lights, I'm okay with a motion censored light. I have no issue with that. We don't work at the shop. We work away from the shops and we don't, unless there's storms like we've had now, we're done and gone usually by 4 or 5 o'clock. Now, I can't say that's, but I'm open to lighting however benefits the community.
Sure.
We don't want to be a
And I
burden.
just wanted to jump in real quick. First, in terms of those are all very valid concerns. But those will definitely be covered by the plan commission's review of the actual site plan down the road. So really tonight, the focus of the review right now is should they allow this use at all? And then secondly, if the use is allowed, then can they do it in a metal building? So that's really the purview right now. And again, not mitigating those concerns, all very valid. But I did want to speak to on the lighting side of things, is that the zoning ordinance does require full cutoff lighting anyway, meaning it's capped. I don't know, that you can't do a bulb that's visible. So
Okay.
unlike what they might have on the Madison County Ingalls side, our lighting is definitely a lot more restrictive. And then lastly, the height of the lighting that's allowed in industrial zoning, assuming we follow those development standards, is either 25 or 30 feet maximum. So now certainly the board could attach different conditions if they think it's pertinent to this type of use. But my recommendation would be, those are all very valid concerns, but we deal with that down the road with the plan commission.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to bring all of those,
Sure.
keep this entire list. And then once we've got a real plan set in front of us, we can get really into,
Okay.
the plan commission gets into those nitty gritty details and we can take that in and we can make those modifications to
Okay.
the plans as necessary.
So my other question was for you. You mentioned not doing some, which portion were you not wanting to do berm at?
Well, for the berm, I would say, no berming at all, only because we don't know what it could do to the drainage patterns.
Okay.
However, if the board felt that that was really important to screen that, it could be at least dealt with as a comment or even a condition. And then lastly, just to be clear, because we had, this got a little bit confusing at the plan commission with a different case that we were dealing with yesterday is, again, right now, the focus of this group is on that use and on this metal building idea. And so any concerns about just having this use in general can be fully discussed now, and it's part of the scope. And then what happens is if they get the approval here tonight, then the next step would be to build upon that and to file these concept plans, concept landscaping, concept lighting, concept landscaping, and concept building elevations. And those 4 documents would be reviewed by the plan commission. But by the same token, the use element has already been settled. So the plan commission is technically focusing on those 4 things. So it really it just kind of builds upon itself as it moves through the process.
Okay, so my only concern was if you're approving the usage tonight, is that what you're doing?
Correct.
Then please consider some of those things if we could add. I wouldn't want it to be approved without us thinking about some of those things that could be added to help
Sure.
keep our property
The
value.
condition.
As conditions, yes, yes. So I didn't know if the conditions would help make your approval as a yay or nay. I just want to bring some of those thoughts into your head when you decide to approve it or not, that if we could just take a standpoint from some of the neighbors and get some of our input as well, that would help us.
Certainly. And the conditions, because there's not complete continuity between this board and plan commission, those conditions help kind of ferry along the thoughts of the approval to that group as they're making those decisions with the plans.
Thank you.
Did you have a chance? Is that everything? I want to make sure you had a chance. Okay. Okay. And like I said, please come back to the plan commission. Should this pass and we move to plan commission, we would love to have those comments reiterated in whole. Any other, anybody else from the public that would like to speak for or against this? Did you have a chance? Did you want to come up to the microphone or? And then again, plan commission, where we get into those concept landscape plans, that would be absolutely critical to have that input to make sure that we do what's necessary for screening and for your visual cues.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention real quick, Alex had written on here, just a point of clarification. And Alex is our town attorney. Just a point for clarification, for this review and consideration of the use of development standards, the impacts, if any, to the neighboring properties is the consideration along with the hardship and other statutory considerations. Paving, drive and parking design, lighting will be addressed in the site plan review by the plan commission if the use is approved.
Do we have anybody online that would like to speak for or against this project from the public? Do we have anybody else on? See you folks. If so, please unmute yourself and let us know.
This is Alex. Just hopefully you can hear me okay. I
Yes, we
just
can.
wanted to add one comment with respect to the berm or the mounding. If that is something that the plan commission, or I'm sorry, the BZA would like to consider as a condition, another option is to make that subject to approval to drainage calculations by the county drainage board and so forth. So I'm not suggesting to do it or not to do it, but if you think that's a good idea, in addition to the recommendations that Adam has made, that's another way to get at it without having to worry about the engineering.
Thank you, Alex. That's great thought. Appreciate it. Okay, we now have time, hearing that there's no other public comment. We got time on our agenda for government officials, if you'd like to say anything on the case. No, you get the shaking of the head, no? Anything else from the petitioner? We got a chance for rebuttal. I know we've had a good back and forth, but if there's anything else, there's always a chance to follow back up after discussion.
Yeah, so Joshua Springer, SPRAGER. I just want to say that how I've been using the property right now from a phase and from a development as a nursery in this special exception has been communicated with the neighborhood as far as like on their public neighborhood forum on when we're going to be doing our controlled burns, doing, any type of activities on the property that they might be alarmed by. We always consider the neighborhood in that. The latest controlled burn that I had from nursery standard, I'm allowed two that I have yearly that I do with the clearing and the filing. And I did file that with the fire marshal, the volunteer burning volunteer fire marshal. And it impacted the neighborhood in a negative manner because of the size and the scope. I don't wish to have continual impact on that. So I want the neighborhood to know, and I said this, that, I heard them that they didn't want, the smoke. And I think that this step towards development will obviously eliminate, the ability to do a lot of the stuff that was negatively impacting them. So in this plan, like I'm listening to the neighborhood and their concerns. I understand they don't want, 2 times a year, all day bonfires, coming from the clearings from all the property and, all of the fields. So that is being taken into consideration. And yeah, nobody wants to be that neighbor. And especially us. So just want that to be on record.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Any final questions for yeah, sure, absolutely.
Did I say my name again?
You're fine.
No,
Get you on
I
record.
just wanted to add, as I said before, we want to positively impact the city. We really like the location. We like the area. We want to come in and make things better for you, us. We're certified arborists. I would love to plant some trees. Always like planting them better than taking them down. So, we're excited about this, looking forward to hopefully being able to proceed. And that's really all I had is we appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you.
All right, thank you very much. Any final questions for the petitioners at this point? If not, and we can probably do these separate or bundled. I don't know if it's easier either way. Adam, if you want us to.
I would do them as two separate.
Two separate?
Since they're
Okay.
two separate ballots.
So we have I would look for a motion to approve with conditions or deny a use variance for the contractor's warehouse. Let's start there and then we can move to the second one.
This is for the use variance or for the development
Yeah,
standards?
let's start with the use variance for the use of a contractor's warehouse.
I'll make a motion to approve the use variance with the conditions recommended by staff.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion before we vote? Is there any need for, there was mention of berm. Any thought of the berm conditional to drainage? Or just leave it as is with staff recommendation?
Would the planning commission be able to add that in later? If the drainage,
With the landscape plans, that's a good question. I don't know if we say it only has to be a level 3 screen and there's no berm, they're probably not required, correct?
Right.
So if not, they would not be required to do so, even if the planning commission said that we thought that was beneficial.
So I suppose the more clarity that you can provide, probably the better. At first thought, it probably is a little bit of a gray area in that if you're approving the conditions, it's saying that they're gonna follow the industrial light standards anyway.
Yeah.
And so they probably have to do a type 3 berm anyway.
Okay.
Or a type 3 buffer yard, and that would presumably include everything that's in there. The reason that I think it's a little bit gray is because the property that is being developed as part of this proposal is technically east of that property pros site. So even though right now it's all one property, that'll be a separate property in the future. So I think, to me, simply put, just be clear on what you'd like to see from the board as it pertains to that western property line right now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
But we currently have a motion on the floor, right?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Any other discussion? Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. 5-0. Give us just 1 second here.
Adam, on conditions, is it appropriate just to go ahead and mark staff recommended? Or would you like us to list all?
Well, you can just put see staff report.
Okay, moving on next to the development standards. Development standards variance to allow for metal building in residential 3.5. I would look for a motion to approve with conditions, or deny this variance.
I'll move to approve to allow metal buildings.
Okay, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, conversation on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 5-0. Did 26th. Okay. I got my paper all out of order. Apologies. That concludes new business. Thank you very much. Congratulations. We very much appreciate your opinions and perspective, and would very much love to hear from you at the Plan Commission meeting so that we can ensure that everything is done to preserve your property. With that, I would look
And that
for.
meeting also has not been scheduled yet.
Correct,
it's
yes.
Based on them turning in those plans, but they'll have to go through the same procedure in terms of a sign, a mailing, newspaper. So if you received it in the mail, you would receive another one for a separate Plan Commission meeting in the future.
And the town also posts
And we'll.
on social media and on,
Correct.
so keep
Correct.
eyes out on that.
So they're required to do a mailing 10 days in advance of the meeting by law. So.
All right. With that, I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting this evening.
I'll move to adjourn our meeting. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Meeting adjourned at 7:26. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Alex.